Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to welcome you all. My name is Heiko Henkes. I'm a director and principal analyst, and I'm the lead for the ITO and ecosystem IPL studies as part of the program management at ISG Research, and I'm also responsible for the ISG Star of Excellence program. Therefore, a warm welcome. Today is a special day for me in 22 because we are holding the first webinar for the customer experience program ISG Star of Excellence. The last award webinar end of 21 feels like yesterday, but we are already in spring 22. So Jan Erik, our partner manager, can't be with us today, unfortunately. But I'm happy to announce that some of the most important team members of this research program are with us today. Beside me, it's Akila, Tarun, and Manal, who will introduce themselves in a couple of minutes. The program is of great importance to ISG and the market itself. So today's session is aimed at providers and enterprises, as both parties play an important role for us and in the market, of course. Providers are asked to nominate customers, and customers and enterprises, of course, are asked to participate. ISG loves to act as independent party to help providers to become better and customers to become more satisfied, to have a better experience with their providers, and to perceive them as real partners, especially in those highly volatile times where digital transformation is all over the place and we all need to accelerate. So today's webinar is all about the expansion of coverage of the program, including new topics, provider service trends, and their impacts and benefits. It's for providers and vendors, of course, as well. So that's a new enhancement. You will learn more in a couple of minutes. It's about the understanding why it's important to nominate your clients. This is then for the providers only. For enterprises, it's very important to understand why it's important to share your provider or vendor experience with us as extended workbench somehow, as independent workbench. It's about understanding the new CX index that we are supposed to publish quarterly, and the index that includes trends about regions, industries, and technologies. And it's all about the voice of the customer that matters. So it's not the ISG opinion, it's just the voice of the customer, the enterprises which we are interviewing. So with this webinar, you stay up to date. You don't miss the 21 review, and you will get to know what the 22 forecast is about. So I'm really happy to kick this off here. Let's start the webinar. Those are the pictures of the teammates that are with us today. You see me already. Mrinal Ray is our senior manager, principal analyst. Akila, the senior lead analyst, and Tarun, also a senior lead analyst. So a fantastic team which we have here today. The agenda, the program overview and news, which I'm going to start with, then the customer insights, experience insights, the excellence awards, which we're going to speak about. Yes, it's also an award program. So the program serves for the ISG Provider Lens program and the experience data, which we are going to include and embed into each and every quadrant which we have, where we rate all the most important providers of this world. But yeah, there are also awards. You will get to know what kind of awards we have and in how far it has changed also from the last year's perspective. The introduction about the new industry index is on the horizon. I love that thing. That's our vehicle to tell you what enterprises currently think in terms of the regional perspective, and find how to participate, respectively nominate is also going to be on our agenda. So we will explain the process so that you get a better understanding how to engage with us, with ISG. And we will also mention the most frequently asked questions, of course. So we listened throughout the last year and tried to become better. And last but not least, we will try to have an open forum where you can ask some questions in case you didn't understand something, or there is a question that is maybe not part of the FAQ section. Okay, let me start with the program overview and news. So most of you, some of you will know already that this program really truly recognizes exceptional client service experience. That's the whole purpose of that program that was in the early days just an award program. Now it's more. These results, from our perspective, serve really as benchmark for the client centricity in our industry. And last but not least, it's based on client feedback, real client feedback, direct feedback of enterprises. So it's not ISG's opinion. It's simply the opinion of enterprise clients, which we collect in the best affordable way from a research perspective. And we do that alongside those 6 pillars or categories, experience categories, which we've somehow modernized in 21, and it's supposed to stay because we receive positive feedback about the changes and enhancements which are colored in orange over here. So what matters for us, and therefore also for the clients, because we listen to what clients are telling us, is collaboration and transparency, of course. It's execution and delivery. It's people and cultural fit that matters as well, especially in those virtual times in which we are in, the post-COVID area which we are in. It's also governance and compliance, which belongs to the most important topics, because we ask the clients, of course, in how far those categories matter. So each and every enterprise that takes the survey is going to be asked in how far they would prioritize collaboration and transparency in context of execution and delivery, for instance, which is, by the way, still the item that matters the most for enterprises. How could it be different? And last but not least, we have innovation, thought leadership, and business continuity and flexibility. The last item got added in 21 as reaction to the pandemic. Because it's not just about managing the yellow, it's about being flexible, keeping the lights on somehow, but also making sure that the business is up and running no matter what happens. And this is then a category when you as provider can really showcase your skills, your strength and experience, sometimes and more often than ever, also in context of your industry experience, in your industry practice and process knowledge, because we see, of course, that more enterprises distribute the budgets towards the line of businesses. So you need to speak the business language to really make the difference and become recognized as partner. And yeah, as I explained, it's an unbiased program. We do the best to do independent research, and therefore I'd like to quickly explain you the program and the methodology. There's a quite simple but also sophisticated survey in place, which contains roughly 18 questions, where an enterprise would need to invest 15 minutes to really go through the survey and tell us about the vendor delivery capabilities and the respective customer experience. And those cumulative vendor ratings represent the capabilities of a provider, respectively vendor, in 6 customer experience categories, as you see here in the body part of that slide, as well as the overall customer recommendation rating, known as NPS. You know that. So we ask every enterprise, would you recommend the provider you received services from? And of course, it doesn't need to be a project that just got finished, but it's also important that it's not ways beyond what is reasonable. So after 2-3 years, we would say we wouldn't consider a project to be really important and an experience, because the provider and the service understanding delivery might have changed. So therefore, also from our database perspective and how we treat the data, also in the long run, we keep the data for 3 years, and then we renew the data in our database, in our backend. And as I explained already, the unbiased methodology is going to be realized because we have two strings established. There is the private link provider nominated enterprise responses string and the public link enterprise responses string. The public link is where ISG works with third-party providers, where ISG allows every enterprise that has interest to participate, to provide the experience with the provider, which they received services for. And of course, we also ask ISG advisors to go through their clients, because it's a natural thing as sourcing advisor to ask the client that which we advised, where we did sourcing work for, to rate their provider, their incumbent, in terms of the experience. And of course, just that you understand that it's not just high level. We really drill it down, and we also explain within the survey what we understand underneath collaboration and transparency, or execution and delivery, so that every enterprise client that really takes the survey will understand what we believe matters underneath, or in context of people and cultural fit, or business continuity and flexibility. So we ensure that every enterprise gains the right, or let's say, the right understanding from our perspective, of course, but at least to be sure that everyone is on the same page. That's important from a data quality perspective. And on the right side, you see the final positioning. That's where the customer experience scores directly feed into. That's, of course, the IPL survey data, where we made a good progress, and we innovated ourselves within the IPL portal, where all providers are supposed to take the survey and answer our RFI-related questions against all the studies, you name it. Let it be the banking study, industry-focused, or the cloud study, or the IoT study, or whatever you name it. So we have 44 studies in the field. So a huge and broad and deep agenda which we have. So the IPL data in general goes into the both axes, the Y and the X axis, and the customer experience score, and as well the NPS score, goes into the X-axis only, which is about the competitive strength in a particular region against a defined topic, of course. And the average impact is between 3 and 5% on the X-axis. Maximum impact would be 9%. And of course, it's not always the same. We have our sources, we do secondary research, we speak to advisors, we have our ear in and on the market. We do enter events, and I don't know, have several conversations, expert talks with providers, with enterprises, market experts. So those fields within our methodology are in most cases not empty. So therefore, it's just an additional set of data, but a very important one. Because if you think of the analyst that has to deal with a provider positioning aspect, let's say in terms of managed public cloud services, they heard about it, what the provider is capable of doing and how the experience is. But if you have firsthand collected primary research data from your own powerhouse ISG research, you better take this one for granted, of course, and you better prioritize this set of data, because you can't be sure that it got collected in the right way, and it's of high quality. So that is how it works, and we are proud of that program, and it just helps each and every analyst to get more confident about the provider positioning. And one thing is also very, very clear, I'd say, the nominations coming from the provider itself are definitely providing a better experience, because it's a hand-picked kind of clients, which providers typically share with us, where they have done an exceptional delivery, right? So whereas the public link is of course more heterogeneous. So in a sum, it's the unbiased methodology and the set of data that really matters to the analysts, respectively the advisors, because it contains all sorts of enterprises. So from the public link side, we ensure that there are also enterprises that have received projects or services from providers, respectively vendors, where the experience was maybe not so great, whereas the provider typically shares clients where everything went really, really well. So we are aware of that. We saw the tendency in the set of data, of course, in 21 and the years before, which is why we ensure that it's a healthy balance of data. First-hand data shared by providers, which will, of course, receive also a notification about the process, which enterprise received the survey link. It's an individualized survey link and who took the survey already. But don't be afraid that the enterprises will stay anonymous, of course. So we don't need the names of the enterprises. That is a question we quite often receive. It doesn't need to be an official reference client. A referral would do, of course, and we share the names of the enterprises just with the provider for reporting purposes when it's coming out of their hands. Through the public link survey, we do not track the enterprise names. We collect them in the first place, but just for quality purposes and review purposes to make sure it's a real enterprise that takes the survey. But we delete it afterwards. And other sources we use from the public link side, there we don't even ask for the provider, for the enterprise name in the first place. What matters for us is the demographics in general, of course, and we have also created some screener questions where we make sure that the enterprise that answers the survey from A to Z is really, is answering in the right way, and that it all makes sense what they are saying. And therefore, it's also a year-round survey, so it never stops. Yes, we have an award ceremony at the end of the year. We will hear more about that in a couple of minutes. But in general, it's an open-end survey, which serves the IPL program, respectively the sourcing advisory of ISG. So it never stops. But yes, once in a year, we cut the data for making sure that in October, this is the time when we cut the data, right? We collect the data, and at the timestamp to it to make sure that the yearly award ceremony is really based on the yearly received customer experience scores. That is what matters for the award ceremony only. But the IPL quadrant business, and therefore the support for the ISG advisory arm of ISG never stands still. Therefore, we can't stop the survey, and we keep the data for 3 years, as I explained. Which type of awards we have is also something you're going to hear in a couple of minutes. And just to make you, to give you an example how this typically works, the ISG Provider Lens program is supposed to provide information for the most relevant providers in the particular market against the defined topic. And that is then somehow also what advisors prefer, because in the long list, short list discussion, you start big. And of course, why should you reduce the amount of providers in the first place? But then you have a dedicated, specialized, really narrowed client demand, and therefore you trim down the long list towards the short list. And one set of data, a very important one, is more the CX scores that we feed into the candidate provider qualification process, in brackets CPQ. So that's something where we are really proud of. We more and more include the CX data into the shortlist sourcing projects of ISG. And therefore, we really ask you all to participate. So the providers need to nominate their clients, especially those who are not the biggest brands and, I don't know, acting on a global scale. So we speak about every regional provider because we do regional sourcing advisory here. So one size fits all doesn't work for us. And you can imagine that those brands that are maybe, I don't know, not the most of the biggest ones in the market are really hard to get data for. So to really stick to our philosophy and principles, having an unbiased set of data, we really request you to participate. It's for your own benefit. For the providers, it definitely improves the position in the quadrant, that's for sure. And in the long term, if not midterm already, of course, the relationship with your client, and it makes sure that they consider you for the next round when the outsourcing is supposed to happen, because we all know you as incumbent maybe can't lean back. You need to stay active. You need to proactively approach your enterprise, your client. You need to make sure that they receive you as partner, as strategic partner sometimes as well. So therefore, this whole process is important to lay out and to make you understand. Yes, there are multiple data sets that feed into the shortlisting of ISG, but Star of Excellence. So the CX score per provider, per region, per topic. This means per ISG provider lens study, because we have a broad and rich set of topics there. Technical terms, industry terms, BPO terms, everything is covered, and we do drill downs, of course. Everything is in, and the more data we have, the more drill downs we are able to make and to provide, the better it is for the sourcing quality in the end. The program coverage grew, is just getting better, if you ask me. So we have many technology and business process versus services, respectively, solutions in place. It starts with the analytics and big data study, which we have. It has, of course, application development and maintenance, where we just added the low-code, no-code solution side, which becomes more and more important to become agile, to accelerate, to be able to scale, to allow the citizen developers to do something, get their job done. We have cloud computing, contact center, of course, in place. We have newly added the engineering services study. We have also ESM, enterprise management, which is of highest importance. It's the former ITSM, and so on. I can't name all those studies. All of those are very important for us. And we've added payroll and talent management, HR tech in 22 as well. We have the ecosystem studies, which are truly partner studies. So that's the block in the middle of that slide here, which you see. It's not about SAP itself or ServiceNow or Oracle or Google. It's about the partners, because we know that those ISVs, vendors, have a broad and rich ecosystem, and they deeply, truly rely on their partners in terms of consulting, implementation, and also managed services. It's not all self-explaining. In some areas, even knowing if it's that it's a software as a service solution, enterprise integration matters and is of highest complexity. And we have also industry-specific services, for sure, where we just added consumer packaged goods or travel, hospitality, and transportation. So we cover a lot of industry-specific services, where we also see how far the practice on the provider side got established, and how well it is designed and how well it is received from the clients. I think that's a wonderful mirror in those times where we see that the horizontal service delivery doesn't work anymore. You need to have your service practice, and we also see more and more the dedicated hyperscale practices in the market. The combination of both is then another asset to have, and a true challenge. And last but not least, we have all the emerging tech category, which is something that is supposed to change maybe throughout the year, because it's highly dynamic, as you can imagine. It's intelligent automation and AI. I explicitly carved that out over here, because AI is somehow also fundamental for our new economy, which we have on the horizon. And then we have digital, in brackets, business transformation. That is, of course, all about blockchain, somehow, for digital transactions. It's about sustainability. Digital transformation somehow is sustainability transformation, as it seems. We have IoT, edge computing, container, so cloud native philosophies and related services, and products, of course, like observability tools, and or Kubernetes management platforms, all such things. We have cybersecurity, which is on top of each and every enterprise agenda. So every enterprise that is supposed to listen would potentially agree. However, quite complicated, and if something goes wrong, you better not speak about such things. We all know that. Software-defined networking, last but not least, is the last emerging tech category. And I'd like to hand over to Mernal now, who's going to tell you more about very, very insightful information which we received throughout the year 21 and somehow also gained already in 22. Thank you.
Thank you, Heiko, and hello all. My name is Mrinal Rai. I'm Senior Manager and Principal Analyst at ISG. I'm leading the Star of Excellence program from the research efforts perspective. Now, when we talk about customer experience or CX insights with respect to Star of Excellence, what we really want to emphasize on is that CX in terms of our industry is not same as the broad definition of CX that we normally are aware of in the industry, which is mostly related with consumer experience or contact center services. We talk about CX information with respect to IT BPO outsourcing and how clients view and rate the experience of with their service providers and software solution vendors with respect to their IT BPO outsourcing or technology services. You can imagine the broad coverage of this survey because if you look, if I just talk to you about the survey that we did last year, there cannot be less broad survey as we like what we did. You can look at we targeted enterprises of all sizes. You can have enterprises less than 500 million to up to more than 5 billion revenue scale. We do reach out to enterprise client executives of different business functions, ranging from managerial level to senior executive levels. So, if you look at last year's responses, we had 2,000 unique evaluations of service providers, and out of those, 1,000 plus nominations came from the providers. And now you can look at the data and you can imagine that we can do this number can happily be more than what it is right now. 450 nominations actually converted into responses, as we can imagine that we have to reach out to these enterprise clients to respond to this survey. So here is our approach towards this program this year. We want you, service providers and software solution vendors, we want to work with you very closely so that we make sure that the clients you nominate do take part and do take the survey so that we can have a rich and comprehensive information about your capabilities. The reason I say this because the CX amount, the information that we collect and the resulting CX score generates interesting insights if you look at the data. For example, when we look at last year, we can see that even though the number of responses that we received from the C-level executive was high, and compared to a managerial level, you can see that the CX score was high when you compare to managerial level. You can see the number of responses was less. It also shows that providers are maintaining a great relationship with their clients and they're doing a great job in maintaining the relationship at a vendor management level. But when it comes to the operational level of managers, the CX score is drastically less. So that is something that providers need to look at. The same is the case with the if you look at the different business sizes, you can see the business ranges between 500 to 1 billion. We see we received highest number of responses from them, and as the responses as the number of sizes of the business grows, you can see the CX score is increasing. Throughout the analysis of this customer experience information that we have received to Star of Excellence, we have seen that the providers are doing a great job in maintaining the relationship. However, when it drills down to the operational level of nuances, the customer experience score dwindles. And that's what we would like to see when we compare the customer experience score with the customer experience importance. As you can see in the slide, we look at the data, and as Heiko mentioned, there are 6 categories that define the customer experience: execution, delivery, business continuity, collaboration, governance, people, cultural fit, innovation, and thought leadership. If we try to plot the relation between the importance and CX score, one thing is very clear, as the experience really depends on the importance. Since this study and this survey was done last year, and 2021 was the year when enterprises were coping up with the new challenges posed to them because of the pandemic, execution and delivery stood out as the highest importance category. We asked the enterprise clients which category was most important for you. And for each of those categories, we asked how well will you rate their service provider based on their performance. So execution and delivery was rated as the most important category for all enterprise clients. And not so surprisingly, the CX score for this category was also very high. This shows that providers were able to make sure that they were able to keep the lights on. They were able to ensure minimum disruptions in operations because of the pandemic. However, when we go down and we see that the next best category, the next most important category, that was collaboration and transparency and business continuity and flexibility, which differ slightly by a few points. Collaboration and transparency is all about how well your provider was able to collaborate with you in terms of handshakes. Were they able to take your feedbacks, negative and positive feedbacks, and how they were able to transition the work. Business continuity and flexibility is all about how they were able to help you transform your business models, and how they were able to cope up with the COVID-19 challenges. So you can see, even though the importance for these two categories was high, the CX score is a bit low. It shows that when collaboration was moved to a virtual world, there was a dip in the level of efficiency that was perceived by enterprise clients. And similarly, governance and compliance category, if you look at, that is where providers received an average level of CX score, and the importance was also didn't change because of the pandemic. And the next category, if you look at, is the people and cultural fit, which talks about how well provider is able to provide more resources and people, and how well these people fit into their business environment, and were they able to hire a good number of resources to make sure that they are able to provide consistent delivery. And since it was in last year when the great resignation and the talent shortage that we are seeing in the industry has just hit, so we are seeing that the importance is for this category is still less than compared to the other categories. But the effects of the great resignation was already creeping in, because the CX score was provider for all the providers was pretty low. And especially in the category where we asked whether the provider were able to hire resources which can best suit you. So that those are the categories where providers receive less CX score. And most striking observation out of this analysis was for the category of innovation and thought leadership, which received lowest level of importance and lowest amount of CX score. This shows that clients normally don't see their service providers and global system integrated partners as highly innovative. They are very good and delivering the agreed service line agreements. That's why you see very high score on execution and delivery. However, when you look at how they are able to think about new business processes in the light of pandemic, and how they have to change their business models, and are they innovative enough? Are they providing you approaches to change their business model, innovative business model? Those are the areas where the importance of those categories was less, and so was the CX score. And if you look at the key findings of last year's study, we definitely say that providers really excelled in their service delivery. Because of execution and delivery, they received the highest score. Cybersecurity ensures compliance, and that is a very key point, because we had questions about providers' capabilities in cybersecurity technologies, and the data shows that the providers who had very high CX score in cybersecurity were also rated very highly for governance and compliance category. So it doesn't come as a surprise, but it validates the fact that providers with strong cybersecurity practices are able to comply and provide good governance for their clients. Innovation and talent troubles is something that really bothers the industry. Clients providers need to be more innovative. They should be perceived by their clients that they are innovative. And the talent trouble is something that we are all aware of, and that is something that clients are also beginning to see. We are very confident that when we analyze data from this study, from this year's study, this category is going to be more important than others. And if if we go to the next slide, you can see that the CX evaluation that we have actually drills down to multiple categories. Now, we calculate CX score for each of the technology areas that Heiko has already mentioned. In addition to that, we also do evaluation drill down for each of the regions and industry. By that, what we mean is that we will have a CX score for every provider for each of these regions that you can see on the slide right now, and each of the industries. And a combination of CX score for regions and industry provides a real value add and real level of insights. And if you look at the trends, how it differ by each industry, by region, and even by business functions, that is where you see how the clients are perceiving, how the peers are perceiving. This level of information is useful for enterprise customers, for service providers, and everybody in this industry in general. That is the level of insights that we can generate out of this data, and it cannot be emphasized enough that because it is coming from the enterprise clients themselves, an unbiased view, it is very useful for all thoughtful decision making in our industry. Now, this CX evaluation also feeds into the Star of Excellence Awards, and for which that is the next section of this presentation. And to discuss more about Star of Excellence Awards, I would invite my colleague Akhila.
Thank you, Ronald. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I'm Akhila Harinarayan, welcoming you all from Bangalore, India. I co-lead the Star of Excellence program along with Mrinal and Tarun. Welcome once again, and I'm here to explain in detail about the Star of Excellence Awards. If you could go to the next slide, thank you. We do have overall segment awards wherein the highest customer experience score categories is awarded. The top three service providers who have scored high customer experience will be awarded in the overall experience category. Apart from the overall, we also have technology, industry, regional, and emerging tech. These are very much aligned to the program coverage that I could explain. Technology is aligned to SAP, application development and maintenance, finance and accounting, and other ISG program service lines that we have in ISG provider lens. In industries, we do cover retail, banking, manufacturing, and other industries also. Regional is covered as Americas, EMEA, and APAC. Emerging tech, definitely digital business transformation, automation and AI, cybersecurity, SDN, all of this fall under emerging tech. All these awards are very much aligned to the program scope that was explained before. And we will continue to have the same segments this year too. And next, we also have the eligibility criteria for the awards. It's not enough to have high CX score, but also be good in certain category and the region. So enterprises who are in this in the webinar, please do nominate your providers and talk about them. Talk about how good they are. Talk about how well they have worked for you. Talk about the experience that you have with them, what they are good at across those 6 categories that have been explained before across the Star of Excellence program. Please do go into the Star of Excellence website and nominate yourself to talk about the providers that you have worked with. And providers, if you are good at certain category, for example, finance and accounting, please do nominate your clients specific to that category so that they can talk about you. And the awards is not only about having a high CX score, but also being good in certain categories, certain region, certain industry, technology. For that matter, it also could be emerging technology such as sustainability and decarbonization. And along with the awards, we also provide badges, which is very specific to the overall segment or the region or the service line when the provider has excelled at. Along with the badge, the provider will also get a detailed benchmark report, which deep dives into the CX score, as in how the provider has scored as compared with the industry peers, what is their benchmark, what are the clients talking about them, how well they are known for, what are they known for, all these aspects put together. And also it does cover the response demographic. So this is just a brief on what the benchmark report covers, but there is a lot much in detail in the benchmark report that is provided at the end for the winners. And we also provide benchmark report for other providers too. And last but not the least, congratulations to the finalist of 2021. Hope to see a lot more in 2022 this year too. And that concludes my section. And I would like to pass it on to Tarun to showcase the enterprise side insights for customer experience.
Thank you, Akila. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Tarun Vaid. I am associated with ISG as a senior lead analyst, and I co-author for Star of Excellence along with Heiko, Mrinal, and Akila. So, in this section, I'll be talking about the CX index. Like Mrinal has mentioned, when we mentioned over CX, we are talking about the customer experience. But this customer experience is not a technology related, whether it be about the digital transformation or customer or contact center service. But this is a customer experience which the clients have received from the services that were delivered to them by the providers. So this is a very unique and first of its kind index that covers technology, industry in-depth insights on overall customer expectations versus the customer experience that they have received. So this is going to be a quarterly insights where we'll be having a quarterly published CX index And this will provide readers with insights on how customer experience changes by industry, technologies, business functions, and regions. And finally, there will be a comparison how these changes differ year on year and quarterly on quarterly manners. So this is something which will give you a clear insights, like if there was if there are some changes and how these changes will have a wider impact on for the providers when it comes to delivering a more customer centric services to their clients. So as I mentioned, this is going to be a quarterly CX index. In the very first quarter, the CX index will cover insights on the CX trends across industries and the areas of the focus and development for providers that will support them to make their offerings more customer centric and improve their overall service delivery experience. The coverage will include insights across business functions, regions, and also a deep dive into the response summaries. Similarly, in the second quarter, in similar lines, the CX index will cover insights across technology service lines, covering both the technology and business process services, the emerging technologies, the ISV ecosystems, and the industry specific technologies. Followed by the in the third quarter, we are looking into giving the readers more in-depth CX insights about the respondents by the region. So it is very important to understand if the enterprise clients have a different CX scores in the North America as compared to the EMEA. So what are the factors that has brought these changes in the overall customer experience scores? Is it because of the it might be one of the capabilities or the categories that we considered, or it might be about how well they were being supported across by the providers during their transformation, on how they were well supported when it comes to modernization of their infrastructure. And finally, in the last quarter, the CX index will cover the annual insights that will include quarterly comparisons. Most important aspect over here is the CS index will follow a close schedule with ISG index. And with this information, we will try to bring in the client satisfaction perspective in the IT, BPO outsourcing, and the technology service industry trend coverage. So going to the next slide. So this is a sample of insights that we will be covering in the quarterly CX index findings. So insights on the, like for example, if you see over here, when we talk about the graph, we know like clients from public sector, energy, and business services were comparatively very happy and satisfied with the services that were delivered to them by their respective providers. But what really mattered, and like why financial services, clients from financial services, healthcare, consumer packaged goods, what went wrong for them? Like why they were so least satisfied with the services that were being provided? Does that has something to do with the great resignation? Was it like providers were not able to fulfill or provide them with the agreed resources or the experienced resources who knew the nuances about the industry and the business processes? So also it is very important to understand, like, how the categories fled across the industries. So this is one of the major things, like this is one of the sample that I was sharing over here. But in addition to this insights, on further request, we can also offer a deep dive insights to you, like what really mattered for the clients across industries, across regions, across technology, and if there are any kind of areas where your focus should remain on, and how this focus or how this development will help you to further increase your overall CX rating, or I can say how well your clients are recommending your services to their peers. So this is something which also will be the part of uh, this CX index. But again, like that would be something which would be an add-on request. On the closing note, this it is very important to understand, like this course goes into the IPL evaluation. So this is all about the CX index, which definitely is a new initiative that we have taken for this year's Star of Excellence. And we personally believe, like, in relation to ISG index, this would also provide you very detailed insights about what your customers and clients feels about your services or about the overall experience that they had. So with this, I would like to hand over it back to Heiko for the next section.
Thank you, Tarun. So that was a good teaser for the, let's say, new vehicle which we created for sharing the most important insights on a quarterly basis. So I'm thrilled to see the first index. And yes, this was just a teaser. There's a lot of drill down that we did, and the data is really rich and broad. And it's just the first vehicle of its sort that feeds nicely into the broader ISG index and provides just the enterprise view on their experience with providers in the regions, in the industries, and alongside all the technologies and BPO categories. So I'm really thrilled to see the first index of its sort. So thanks for presenting this, Tarun, and also Akila, the awards. The awards are very, very important for this program because we all want to be proud of what we did, right? When we did something right and it got collected independently and your client is happy, is there anything better? I don't think so. So therefore, let's celebrate this. And in my eyes, it's definitely also worth participating from an enterprise client perspective, because the provider they have all one target. They want to become recognized as the world most customer-centric service provider, respectively vendor, of course. They want to have all stars fully fledged, of course, that shows to the market that their commitment to the client is really centric and thrones above everything. They want to improve their provider lens positioning, of course, which they can do. So that's the intrinsic aspects for a provider to participate in this program, ISG Star of Excellence. And the enterprises, each enterprise should have a natural interest to help them, their providers, to become better, of course, because we will provide the providers with a partly unfiltered feedback. Of course, we have tech clouds where we just provide unfiltered information, what clients told us, because there are also qualitative aspects within the survey, which we also embed into strategy workshops, which we provide. So those things will resonate well, and it will make a difference, of course. And yes, help us as well to become better and serve our clients, our customers, with more comprehensive and unbiased information about the provider. So we would be really, really thankful if you participate here, and you did. So we had thousands of responses, as you saw from Manal already. So it's fantastic. But against the broad agenda and deep agenda which we can't have enough enterprises participating, of course, because when you do great drill downs, you sometimes end up with having just 1 or 5 answers per quadrant and subtopic, of course. And yeah, we want to have really a representative amount of answers, which we say as well that 30 responses per provider is definitely needed. And the entry card, let's say this way, for the awards program at the end of the year. And to don't leave you out in the dark without any further guidance. And this is somehow also important for the providers. I did not record on and describe the path for a provider itself, but providers know how to engage with us typically. In that context, we educated them, we introduced the program. There is a natural, way how to provide clients within each and every survey. We have all those providers that are familiar with the ISG Provider Lens program. But the enterprises, I'm speaking to you right here. You can just enter by Google. You all know that this is the most often used web engine. ISG Star of Excellence, and the first result should be the right one, where you see the landing page of the program, where you can just click on participate for enterprises. And here you go. You can right away provide the feedback about whatever kind of provider you prefer. So do us a favor and share your view with us, provide your demographics, that we know in which bucket you belong. So that is important for us to also help our advisors to create some insights about different groups of industries and enterprises, and also do some correlation analysis in terms of their happiness, respectively experience, alongside those categories in the context of a cloud or banking service or whatever you may want to choose, and invest those 15 minutes per provider, and stay true. That's really, really important. Don't just click through. Stay for a moment. Think of what matters for you, because you can prioritize those categories and provide real feedback, help your provider to become better, and in the end, provide input on additional topics and or providers. You are allowed to at the end of the survey, and you're also allowed to come back. And of course, you will receive a free copy of an IPL report within that domain or selected context, where you can see and will be allowed to read some trends. Of course, we see per region, you see the most important providers alongside maybe the provider you provided feedback on. So I think it's of high value for you, and you shouldn't miss that. Coming back to the frequently asked questions, I told you at the beginning that we will try to answer most of them at least. And one of those questions is definitely from a provider's perspective: how many clients can we nominate? And of course, as many as possible. There is no cap or limitation, because the more you nominate, the more will take the survey, and the more robust the data is going to be for the ISG Provider Lens business, respectively the sourcing business. And of course, we have more data in terms of the awards for providing the awards at the end of the year and making you eligible for becoming one of the finalists, which Aquila showed us from 21, for instance. And when can providers nominate? Any time of the year. So it's a never-ending survey which we have in place. Ideally, that said, from a provider's perspective, you nominate clients alongside the research phases of the IPL studies which we have in the field. That's of importance, definitely, because then it counts and will be used directly within the research phase of that respective study. This is why we also provide a reporting for all of you, that and how far your clients took the survey already. So that it's really worth investing that time. We have also handouts for you and for your clients. Just knock on our door. You will receive and see the way how to engage with us in a moment at the end, where I also explain who the project manager is. So that all should work for you, so that it's not too much of effort, and your account managers that speak to enterprises also know why it's so important. We have also the same for enterprises. I don't know, in a nutshell, why it's of importance, why you are helping us if you provide information. And also, what is the validity and the duration of a client feedback? I explained this already. It's 3 years, because we believe after 3 years, it needs to be renewed. That's of importance. And for the awards itself, it's just that year in which we received the answer. And how many client responses do we need? Yeah. We need as many as possible, of course, to provide rich data for the sourcing advisory, respectively IPL business. However, at least 30 responses are needed to become eligible for an award. And do we require official references? No, we don't. We just need a referral because the clients stay anonymous. Yeah, we track the name of the enterprise, but just against the provider till the enterprise took the survey. And on the public link side, I explained that there's an open possibility for each and every enterprise to take the survey. There we just use the name of the enterprise in context of the email to provide the link. It's an individualized link to the survey, and to make sure that it's a real enterprise that answers our question here. Key dates of this year's ISG Star of Excellence program. Today on the left side is the Global Launch Program update of 22. The 5th of May, so really soon, next week already, next Thursday, there is the first quarterly index release planned for the index insights that Tarun just presented. So I'm thrilled to see that. And we will also further include the data into other ISG subscription services like the ISG Advisor and so on. And yeah, I'm thrilled to see the inclusion. It's just good to see how well it fits into the ISG index and other products we have in place. And from May to October, I think, to be honest, it has started already. The advisor and provider engagement is our main intention. So we speak to every provider, and more often also to enterprises directly and through the voice of the advisors to really provide data. That is really important for us. We're just as good as many responses we receive. And then in October, the middle of October, we aim to close the award-related survey, of course, but it doesn't stop here. So we have a lot of surveys, IPL-related in the field, where you, as provider, are still asked for providing client referrals to make sure the analyst gets the first-hand data insights from your clients, how they think of you. And last but not least, in November, last year it was unfortunately December, because it was the first time with a new methodology and program. It took a little bit longer. It was December, but this year it's November when we are going to announce the 22 award winners. And I'm really keen to see who is going to win this award in 22. It's an outstanding award because it's just the voice of the customer that ISG is going to share and release. And it was a fantastic show last year. Many of our leaders as well, Mike Connors and Todd and Steve and all of them joined and helped us to share the awards with you. So fantastic show. I'm really looking forward to do the same again. Are there any questions at this point in time? That is what I'm asking myself. And last but not least, and we can have an open discussion, and you can place your question in case you have some. I'd like to share the contacts with you. As I explained, it's star@isg-1.com in case you have a question. And then it's funny, our project manager, he does a fantastic job, who coordinates questions, distributes questions towards the advisory, the sales side, respectively the analyst side, whatever it is, we will try to answer immediately. Thank you.